tell me a little bit about your horse, what's been going on? How much do we know?
This is Basel. I've had him now for about 7 weeks, got him just before Christmas.
Okay.
I've been out of riding for 8 years, so a long time. So I'm looking for a safe horse to try and sort of get back into it.
Yep.
I bought him because I felt safe on him, but at the time he was quite underweight.
Okay.
Got him home, fed him up, all the good stuff.
Now he's feeling
blew
healthy.
His brains. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's feeling better. And he's just become a little bit spooky. And I think as well, he's feeding off me, because I fell off a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And since then I've been very like, and I feel like he can really feel that.
100%, yeah.
So
They'll feed off your insecurity or just that lack of confidence. If they already are a little bit inherently insecure or don't know what they're doing, don't know where they are, don't know what they're doing, then they'll feed off of that, definitely. But
Yeah.
that's fine. Can work
So I
with
want to try and reset us both really and sort of build a little bit of self-confidence with him and just let him be able to deal with things a bit better, and so that I'm not panicking as well.
Yeah, it's for you to feel that you don't have to mother him because you're not in a place where you can yet, but also for him to develop the independence that he knows he's got a system he can look after himself.
Yeah.
Then if he runs out of all the tools that we've given him, then he can look to you and go, okay, what's the solution?
Yeah.
So it's not breaking that bond, but it's giving him enough tools in the toolbox that he can work for himself, make really good choices, and if he runs out, then say, oh, please give me the solution before I try and make a poor choice myself and run off or do something silly. Or, Okay, cool.
So yeah, it's just sort of re-leveling both of our heads out, I think, and just, trying to build that trust up from the start as well, because I don't want to have to deal with a spooky horse all the time, just think that's normal or whatever. I want to try and...
absolutely. We've been brought up to think there are sharp horses and there are flat horses, and and it's actually not true. Yes, there are inherent traits, of course there are, but a lot of that is either something was missing in how they were developed when they were young, or something has happened, traumatic in their life that has led to that. Or, as you said, they feed off of you if you're an insecure rider, or you've had an experience yourself. All this is about is not teaching them not to spook. It's actually teaching them how to cope with the feeling that comes up in their body that leads to the spook.
Yeah.
So we would often see, say you said they spooked at a flower pot. It actually wasn't the flower pot, it was the 9 things before that filled up his bucket of copeability, and then it overflows with the flower bucket, at the last minute. And we, or humans, will go, well, that was it. I need to expose him to that flower pot. And of course it's not. It's the other 10, 15, 20 things. So can we show him how to have a better way of moving, that when he does go into crisis, he relies on that better way of moving. Then he can control himself because he feels better about his own body. Then he doesn't feel the need to control everything else that's going on around. So they stop looking for things.
Yeah.
Looking for things to spook at.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Super.
Let's have a look see. So the most important thing for me, I haven't got my rope on yet, so I can't do it especially my way, but is to not try and pander to that insecurity. I mean, it's very genuine, of course it is, he's not been here before, but to try not to go, oh yeah, you're quite right, it's all right, steady, calm down, it's okay. So the first thing that you'll see, same as in the car park, he can't bring himself to stand because he's like, I don't know what's going to happen, I might be ready, I need to be ready to run if there's an issue. The worst thing I can do in that moment is be like, stand still, you're fine, stand still, it's okay. So if he needs to move, he can move, it's absolutely fine. I would then want to be able to show him or lead him to a place that he feels maybe he could stand. Because he's still insecure in that moment, I don't expect that to suddenly last for 5 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to look for him to be able to stand for a few seconds, and then I'll move him before he feels the need to move himself. So this very first couple of minutes is just about, can he start to be aware of a bit of space between us that's a bit healthy? I'm going to ignore this, all right? It's not a problem. I want something like a 3-meter safety bubble, so you don't experience that him kicking you in the right. At the moment, you can see he can't bring himself to stand still. I have several options, but probably the most obvious one I'll do is I offer to change direction for him, and he goes, actually, I'd rather stand still. Perfect. Okay, great. At least then he's got a chance to look at everything. He can take things in, but he takes it in from a softer body, not a, oh my God, there's something here.
Yeah.
Okay. the smallest job that he can focus on while he's insecure. So all he's really got to do is focus on that distance between him and me, or him and you, whoever holds the rope. Very good. And it should never ever feel to him like I'm pushing him away. I'm just saying, think here. That's why I never look at him. I'm just looking at the floor. Just think about that space. There you go. So we get a little bit dialogue going. He could be far worse than this. He could be super fidgety, he could be super insecure. That's fine. At the moment, he's sort of like, I don't have enough information, so I may as well follow along with you for a little bit. But what I really, really want to see is that he starts to feel a little bit released from that obligation to be so het up. And so he goes, okay, cool. I'll not only do I see this as actually, I'll follow because I don't know much else, but actually I feel pretty cool. All the jobs have been taken away. I can just focus on this strange person in front of me leading me around. But you can see now there's a difference in the way he's taking things in, right? So I describe it as, they quite often will do that up periscope look. What the hell? But they can see everything in exactly the same way with a much softer eye. Good. And that soft eye leads to the body then being softer, so then he's less likely to react. So I am in no way ever trying to teach him not to look, not to see. I'm actually trying to say, I have way more value. So if I move a little bit, I just want him to switch back onto me. The more I try to tell him not to look at anything, the less he's going to want to pay attention to me. Well, if you're trying to tell me like there must be something worth looking at, there must be a problem. So you've seen it, you'll ride, you'll be like, oh, he's looking, he's going to spook at this, bend him. I want him to see everything, but I want him to know that he can look at everything with that lovely soft eye, because it's basically the body. So here, insecure, so I let him go, but I'm going to change the direction. So I just really here want to redirect that motion. Because if I can make him feel like actually moving is way harder work, because he's trying the theory out, right? This is how intelligent they are. He's like, I've given you a fair shout. I've done it a few times, but you're still, there you go, you're still asking. So he then tries something else. I actually almost want to encourage that. I want him to become a problem solver. I don't want a horse that's just like, you tell me, I'll do it, it's okay, it's fine. They don't think for themselves then, and they don't learn, right? What I really want is a horse, like I said, he follows you because he knows that you have information that he might not because it's like, that's my job, I just have to follow you. Not at this stage. I want them to become thinking horses. So yeah, what I was saying before is when they get up here and the energy is here, eventually the body will follow the head. So if he's like this, eventually that body is going to go that way, and he's going to move in such a poor fashion that he's going to absolutely convince himself that he was right to be tense. So they're very good at reinforcing their own problems by getting tight. They try and move in that tight way and it feels horrible, so then they panic.
Yeah.
What we really want to say to him is, you don't have to move like that anymore. You can choose, once you have the knowledge, to move in a different fashion, move in a different way. Good job. I don't have to keep going in, going, good boy, good boy, good boy. Him finding that place for himself is enough. So here I just give him the information. He's got a little too close, probably because I went in and I touched him and I was like, good boy, well done. So I want him to feel that distance is healthy. There's a little bit of independence. He's got to look after himself a little bit, but I'm still close enough to be a reference point. If I choose from here to go in and be like, well done, that was amazing, I want to know that as I move back, he can stay there. If he can't, I just reinforce, hey, think about that space between us. I don't want to feel like, get away, don't do that, because I don't want him being nervous. I don't want him feeling, it's not a punishment at all. It's actually building that information base. You can be confident right there. So when we start challenging him with all the tools and all the things that would normally set a horse off quite justifiably, he can always go, oh, okay, I don't have to be on you. So you go to a show and he's a little bit, and he goes, actually, I want to be here. Okay. Because he feels comfortable right there. He can see you, he can get all the information. He doesn't need to be on top of you, or you've seen everybody walking through the car park as they're being pulled by the horse. He's quite a sensitive horse, so I don't have to do very much. There's 2 or 3 different ways you can move the rope. You've probably seen all of them already, right? I can go both hands a little bit here, and I get, that's quite intimidating to him, so I get a little bit bigger reaction. The more sensitive or the really knowledgeable ones for me just get a little bit this rope here, and it's just enough for them to say there's energy in that space, find somewhere else to be. It's not me saying, get back, go over there, do this, do that. Can you find somewhere you're comfortable? If he makes the mistake, I don't mind, but what I'd love to see is that he kind of goes, oh, sorry, I'm too close, and he takes a step back for himself.
Yeah.
If he hasn't got to that point yet, then I give him a second, see if he can do it. If he can't, I give him the information. It's a little bit follow the practical demonstration and then let him find it for himself, and you'll see it 100 times when we get onto the tools. There is no problem if he does 10 of these phenomenally well, and then all of a sudden he goes, oh my God, I can't do that. Like here, he's got super close. So I go big. That energy may have been too much, like you saw last time, and he starts walking around. Doesn't matter. The first thing I can do wrong is then go and grab him and go, oh no, stand still. Look, that's what we were doing. We were stopping and starting. I want him to find it for himself. So either I redirect that energy, or that time you saw me, I walk a little bit towards the bum, and giving the body more work, he goes, oh, actually, I'll just stand here. And that theory will follow through. That's what's so lovely about this system is it doesn't change from groundwork to ridden. There is an absolute continuation through. So if you get to the point where he's looking at something and you're riding and you're coming down the side of the arena and he's about to spook, we don't suddenly go, oh yeah, well, forget everything you've done on the ground. Now bend his nose to your inside leg and hold him there until he can't see it. Quite the opposite, right? We will let him see it. If he needs to go trot to walk, he goes to walk. If he needs to halt, he halts. But we go with whatever he needs in his body to find the ability to make a good decision. Otherwise, quite rightly, he's living on his own DNA and they are reactive. So they wait, too late, bang, I've gone, right? And that's what we often don't feel because we're not that sensitive unless we've trained ourselves to be. It's very, very easy to go, oh, it came out of nowhere. 9 times out of 10 it didn't, right? There were signals there. It might be a twitch in a muscle, it might be a tightening, and we just take the rein and go, oh, it's okay, come a bit rounder. Actually, that was the body building up and storing this sort of toxic feeling before they have to explode, right? So what I want him to feel is, can he recognize it earlier? Can he find the patterns that we're about to do to make himself feel better? If he can do that, he can probably stand. If he can stand, he can probably relax a little bit. Then he can wait for the information that he really needs, okay? So you can do that for way too long. You don't need to. It's really just starting to get the basics in place. It will get better day on day the more you do. So the next thing I really want to be able to do is show him the two or three footwork patterns that we use to allow him to develop an awareness of his body and how he's going to feel and how to move when we challenge him. But before I start moving him, as he's now quiet, hello, I'm going to start to just go in, if he'll allow me, go in, touch his body a little bit, get a sense of where some tension might be. How does he understand his body? All these things. You might see the second I start asking him questions, he has to walk, right? Because he doesn't feel confident in that moment to stand still. He feels a little bit susceptible, a little bit, don't know you, don't know what's going to happen. If he needs to move, I'm just going to go with him. If I'm doing something specific, like I'm touching a certain point or I'm asking a certain question, I may try to keep that question in place. Good. Because I don't want him feeling like the solution is escape. It's still with you, what are you going to do? That's the whole theory of when we move on to the tools. So I'm not doing anything magic here when I'm touching him. I'm only looking for, is there any obvious tension in the body? Can I draw his attention to that feeling? I'm not trying to trigger. What you saw was a little bit release. Some horses get it straight away. Some take days, and some take all the tools. The tools really instill that ability to need to be relaxed. For him, you can see already, he's not really thinking about it, but he makes a really, really good guess. When I highlight some of the tension in his neck, even that is enough of a difference. He went from this outside, I don't know what's going on, to, he's touching me. Why are you touching me? Not sure I like it. Oh, I feel better there. That's what I'm really looking for. So the end result will be when the stimulus comes, that's the first thing he goes to. Actually, I want to feel comfortable. that posture, right? I want him to see, so when he comes off a lorry in a place he doesn't know, I want him to just be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Because I know I can make myself feel better. They don't know that they can choose to do that, right? Because they are choosing to be, well, not choosing, they are reactive animals.
Yeah.
This is the closest we can give them to conscious choice, right? If I can show him that he doesn't have to go nothing, 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 explosion, he can actually go, I don't like that feeling. It's a bit too much for me. I need to move. Or I've moved in a way that I feel in balance, therefore I can slow down. If I can slow down, I can stop. If I can stop, I can come to here. But he has to learn that. That's our job, right? So typically, every horse gets tense along this muscle down the side of their neck, which leads into that shoulder blade. That's one of the most common places that you'll see me sort of touch or give reference to. So there, right? Just enough for him to go, oh, sorry, did you say something? Later on, he'll realise, he'll become sensitive enough that you only have to look at that when you see him get tense. You can look at it and he goes, oh God, you're quite right. I didn't realise I was that tight, sorry. You know, but what the whole thing is, we want him to feel that for himself. It's already a little bit guesswork. So this is what I was talking about, where you get a sensitive one. He made a really good choice. He wanted to start to feel what we just talked about, but then he feels quite vulnerable, letting go. So you go, oh, just move. Okay, that's fine. If I start telling him not to in that moment, I'm undoing everything that I've done, right? So either I let him find a place that he can stand, or I walk towards that hind leg and I give him a little bit. That's quite hard work. Oh, maybe I'll just stand still. So he starts to engage the brain rather than being led by the body that feels tight and tense. We know from what you've said, you're still in the process of getting some weight on, getting some muscle on. I think the way that he is and the way that he moves is going to have a massive impact on how that muscle lays down, but also how quickly it appears, right? So if I could give him the biggest gift in the world, it would be a massive neck that supports all the rest of the body, because he's quite long and he's got, you know, he's probably, with his breeding, he's probably going to move really nicely, but he needs the support structure. And some of this tension and not knowing what to do or feeling unstable, that can easily come from, I don't feel that phenomenal in my body because I haven't got a lot of muscle to back it up.
Yeah.
So he instantly goes to, oh, I feel a little bit, you know, he's got lovely long legs, but they all sort of still come out of the same hole. So if he feels unbalanced, the tendency will always be, oh, just go with it, because that must be the right thing to do. We're going to try and give him the idea of, how do I feel balanced in my body right now? And then does that allow my body to develop? Because yes, of course it will. When he lets go of the tension, the muscle will come like that, with the right diet and the right work. So all of these things can go on for way too long, and this is a very bite-sized version of what we're doing. But if I can get to that point where I can touch his body, I can feel a little bit what's going on. Where does he frequently get into tension? Like you've said before, you've had some issues with those back legs coming when he gets nervous. So really, can I start to say to him, at some point, I'm going to make you feel like those hind legs are connected to the rest of your body. So if you feel that I've been successful enough to highlight that this point here can bring you some release, I can connect that site of tension to this point of release. So we can become really successful. Say you've had a horse that's very sensitive to girth, or has had ulcers before, or anything like that. So they expect problems, as he is a little bit, right? So he's a little bit sensitive behind. If they expect problems, often things we do only prove them right. So if I can set them up to feel better before that arises, before we pose the question, can I give you the answer before I pose the question? Then he's going to feel like, oh, this is cool, I know everything about this. That's really how we make them confident. Can I have instilled the answer in place before I pose the question, as best I can? And therefore, two things. One, obviously he feels really confident, but I can then leave him to find the answer. It's not me always going, oh, well, do this, feel this way, stop spooking, stop doing this. That's a very human interpretation of what we can do. If we can start to think like horses, then we make a much better attempt at putting our point across to them. So you can see already, standing still a little bit too long because I'm talking and explaining. He gets a little bit fidgety, that's fine. So I might just move on and do the floor patterns in a second. But if I can start even in the most basic way, good. to attach that questionable sensitive area to the beginning of him finding relaxation in front, then by the time you're in the saddle and your leg comes on, that's actually the most comforting feeling instead of the most intimidating one, right? I know. I have started more and more with all the hundreds of horses I do. I tend to start with the front feet. I've found lots and lots of horses that are tight in their shoulders and sort of shut down, and they get a little bit stuck in their front feet. It goes a little bit against what you would normally think. Every horse, obviously, they walk forwards this way. Because they will always tend to do that, they follow that energy. Most of them, if they make a mistake, they'll get too energetic and they go that way, right? So what we actually want to do to begin with for him is highlight how he can be more comfortable finding a little bit of weight in his hind leg. So whichever side I stand on, I'm going to ask this front leg nearest me to move behind and across the other one. He may not be able to do it. It's an awkward feeling when they haven't done it before, but I'm inviting him to basically do this. One step, half a step, don't mind. Whatever he can manage in that moment. What we're doing is several things. We're loading him a little bit into the hind leg very slightly without doing any great work. We're also teaching him how to open and close these front legs. And also teaching really, I say, like, it's giving him the awareness of being four-wheel drive instead of two-wheel. And either you get sort of the race horses that are theoretically rear-wheel drive, and you get those horses that are conformationally front-loaded and burdened on their front legs, they're front-wheel drive. I want every horse to feel like it's four-wheel drive. So that when they go, oh, I'm about to spook, that's what normally happens. They get all loaded somewhere, and then the body follows whatever either the conformation or habit has built. Whereas if we can say to him, actually, if you're four-wheel drive and something goes to spook you and you go, hang on, I'm quite happy here. I'm on all 4 feet. I don't feel unbalanced. I can stand here and I can wait. Great. Then he can make a much more informed decision rather than just shooting off and reacting. So same again. We'll go for the same foot. And I'm just looking for a very subtle step. And you can see even there, it's quite intimidating. You know, I don't know if I like it. It will take him a couple of days probably to get comfortable with the idea. What I really, really don't want is I don't want to feel like I'm making it happen. I want him to feel like I'm inviting him to do it, and he's got to go and find it for himself. So touching the rope, I'm barely touching the rope. Fingertips, or even just for me, I quite often use the bottom of my hand. And I'm really more implying, and if they need it, I can go a little bit like here. You'll see I go a little bit with the rope to give him the idea of moving into that space. This side is harder probably, so he's getting a little bit fidgety. And he doesn't cross anywhere near as much with that left fore. So he's starting to give me little nuggets of information. Is he a bit stiffer that side? Is it just that left front leg that's a little bit stiffer? This is the biggest part of this, is can I start to pick up on what we might gloss over, or we say, oh, he's always been tight to the left, or he's always been tight to the right. It's very easy for us to live like that. If we say, well, hang on a minute, how about we highlight that and show them how he can be more understanding of it. So here, a little bit fidgety, I'm just going to let him move. Can I highlight that to him so that he starts to find a solution rather than go, it's just how I am. They are the masters of coping with problems. They'll find a way, always, to cope with a problem. But unfortunately, they will never switch it off unless we show them how. Because they quite rightly go, well, if I move like this for 7 months and I'm alive, that must be why I'm alive, so I'll keep doing it. Right? So every time, so if you have a horse that spooks or bucks or rears or does all these things, every time they do it and they get back to their stable at the end of the day, in their head, really, that's how they survived, right? I reared 7 times and that saved me. So what I have to do is go, well, that actually wasn't. That's what bred that toxic feeling. How about we give you a feeling of comfort in your body? That's what kept you alive, right? We don't have saber-toothed tigers anymore and woolly mammoths and all these things that are going to jump out of a hedge. Pigeons are pretty good at doing it, but we don't have to react in the same way. And you can see almost he gets a little bit frustrated. You know, the little sort of nudges of me and things. It's a little bit insecurity and a little bit impatience, because he'd quite like to just go and do something for himself. That's already much better. Good boy. Again, I don't have to look for perfection, right? I'm really only looking for an idea of how he can pick up on, what do I feel when this happens? What do I do with that feeling? I know, see, and that's frustration. So I just invite him here. Find a little bit confidence over there again. So, so we're always returning to the same principle. If you ever run into a wall or something that goes wrong, you just come back 1 or 2 places. And then he goes, oh, so you saw it like a little bit, the licking in the shoulder. Oh yeah, so I probably shouldn't have done that. And that's what I don't pick a fight. I don't shove him. I don't nudge him. I don't do something that is then going to set me back because he's nervous. I simply say, hey, just find your space over there. Think about it for a second and then we'll go again. Otherwise, again, I can take way too much responsibility for him. So here he's looking for ways almost to evade it. So the bum is moving before the front end, right? He's got a little bit clever. I've got half an idea of what you've been doing to me. It's getting into my body in a way I'm not overly keen on because I haven't experienced it before. So the bum is going before the front legs, right? So I don't worry about it. What I'll probably do is move on, move the hind legs, come back to the front feet, show him how to do it again. But you can see he's quite instinctual. So he sort of followed along to begin with because he was a little bit sweet and innocent. I don't know, maybe I'll do it. Okay, fine. Then he starts to go, well, hang on a minute. That's quite hard work. As stupid as that is, as small as that is, it's quite hard work. Maybe I won't do it. So I'll start to find another way. So I have to be clever. Good. That's not the best step in the world, but it's a step that didn't have the bum swinging to the other side. So I start really just inviting him to find a better way of doing it. Yeah. Again, they're a little bit cheating. Again, cheating. They're a good step. So if I can mark even the tiniest improvement, I don't have to drill for 50 minutes doing the same thing. I can literally go, if you give me half of what I want, an attempt at what I want is way better than you fighting me for it or having a compensation in your body. Good job. I know. Right, so you come out here. Though that's probably the most challenging one, if you like, for the horse and the human, because it's a little bit unnatural. It's not the normal, it's not their normal footwork pattern, but we're giving them the understanding of a really good order of movement. How can I balance myself? How can I get into a system that works for me? The hind feet you'll look at are much more a traditional sort of, almost like a leg yield step, so something you'll have seen a million times. But what we want to try and set it up as is, this is the first one that will look like it's linked to your riding, right? So can I come and stand roughly at his shoulder? I'll take the rope about the length of his neck-ish. I start with my hand where your leg would be when you're riding. And I want to know really, can he stand comfortably still while I'm there? No, he needs to move. And then can he wait to be asked to move? So I've got a tiny flexion. You can see already he gets tight in the rib cage, he shoves a bit into the rope, and he doesn't know really what to do with it in that moment. If you were on, you'd take up more rein contact, you'd give him the story and say, hey, I need you to be softer, I need you to be really settled. I want him to feel all of those things, all of those compromises. I want him to feel them and realize that speed doesn't help, moving out of balance doesn't help, that if he thinks it through and he moves steadier and steadier and steadier and then finds a place that actually, I probably in that moment prefer to stand still, perfect. Because this is the beginning of how does he cope with all the challenges that we're about to put in place and not do that. So that's all, it's a little bit insecure, I don't know what to do something for me. And I'm sorry, that's not my job. So if I can remain very sort of independent, but see how intelligent he is? So now he goes into autopilot. So this is what you'll experience when you ride. This is the guessing. This is what we did before, so clearly we're going to do it again. I don't physically stop him, I wait for him to stand as best we can. Go back into, same thing, hand in place, little bit flexion. A little bit, ask him to move. And I'm really looking for a very easy, gentle crossing of that hind leg. So you see him build the speed and build the speed and build the speed, and then he stops because he almost falls apart. That's what we're going to start leading him away from. Can we show him that actually if he slows down instead, so here again, guessing, I'm asking nothing, this is him guessing. If he slows down instead, his body will feel better. And therefore, if it feels better by slowing down, then why on earth couldn't he chance it and stand still? So interesting now that we're moving the back end, a little bit stiffer this side, potentially because he's looking to the outside, but a little bit stiffer this side. So again, it's nothing that I worry about in the slightest. I'm just logging away all those little details so that later on things start to make sense for me and for him, and I can give him really, really good information. I know. This is what you had at the show, right? So he's trying to look outside. I ask him a question in that moment, and he says, I'm busy. So it's not that he's nasty, right? He'll get a bad rap for that, but he's not nasty. He's like, don't touch me. I'm trying to look at that over there. This is what we want to say. Can I teach him that actually he can do multiple things at once? At the moment, he's a little bit like, oh, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to do it, right? It wasn't my intention to do that, but you stopped me from looking at the woolly mammoth that was about to kill me. It's really not, right? Can we give him the feeling of saying, okay, look, I know you didn't mean to. That was much more instinct. But if I say to you, hey, if your body feels soft, even if you can't look at that thing that you were looking at, you're going to feel amazing because your body feels better. I know. So what we're slowly developing is his ability, yeah, good boy, there you go, to do multiple things at once. Like there, I liked that because he stopped so much more softly. He didn't get quicker and quicker and quicker and hurry out of balance. By no means is that the end product, but that's the whole point. We do little and often. In the end, with this, you'll probably do 5 minutes before you get on, if that. But the reality at the moment is obviously we do as much as we need to show him how to feel better. But when they're young or when they're inexperienced or they're new, obviously we'll cover a lot today. But if he was one of my horses, I may only do 15 minutes with him. See an improvement and be like, that's amazing. Or I could do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon and be like, oh, double down, that was amazing. Because when they start letting go and they start believing what we're talking about, it's very easy, that brain gets tired like that. And more often than not, you will see when they get tired, they go off a cliff, like a normal youngster, they go off a cliff a little bit. And not only do they stop concentrating, but they almost return to all the problems that they had at the beginning. So you have to watch and be careful. Yes, I want progress, but it's much better that I get a tiny bit of progress than I try and force too much and then end up bigger problems. Okay, so again, if you do that little and often, you will see that movement will get softer. He will develop way more knowledge about his own body. He'll become more controlled in it, and we'll start to be able to flip between doing the front feet and then seamlessly going into the back feet and moving around. He will literally, doesn't matter what the horse is, Grand Prix dressage horse or, Shetland pony, doesn't matter. If they understand their body and how it works, they will move better. Like they will start to develop better movement. They'll be softer in their body, they'll be easier to ride. The difference in a horse ridden, once it's learnt this, is astronomical, because then they're not holding on to all of the history that they had in their body, right? So if they can forget their story, actually look at their body now and go, okay, what's happening now? What does it feel like in this moment? What do I need for that? Then we get to the point where we have a genuine understanding of what's going on. Okay, so this bit looks a little bit like lunging. It's not lunging. It's by no means determined to take off any energy or anything like that. It gives me the opportunity to see how the horse is moving, for them to work out how they move, for me to see where all the insecurities are. And you'll see I give them very, very little information. The end result will be me, I want to ask to trot, but because he's got all this excess sort of like, I don't know where I am, don't know what I'm doing, he trots. I'm not going to start controlling that at this stage. So you see, right, massive body, right, massive legs. I don't really know what to do with myself. So in this moment, I'm going to show him, if you get out of control in that trot, you're going to feel pretty crappy. Shh. This is really nice, right? So I don't want that happening, but that's where he goes, oh my God, you just told me something I really needed to know. So he then wants to be with me, and I'm like, it's fine, just do it over there. I'm still here to give you that feeling, but you don't need to be in my pocket. Otherwise, you give him something nice, he's going to stick to you like glue, and then he's not learning to be independent, right? So he's already doing everything we said he would, in the sense of he has this really lovely big trot. He basically doesn't yet have the muscular structure to support it. So he gets faster and faster, and he doesn't know what to do with it. This is already him guessing. This isn't him being naughty. He's like, I kind of like the feeling of standing still versus that chaotic feeling of trot. I'll just stand here. So it'd be very easy to be like, oh, now he's being nappy and he doesn't want to go. It's not that at all. He's starting to join in with what we were saying. See already? This guessing of like, I would quite like to feel stable and balanced. I've already shown myself maybe this is the place to be balanced. Okay, great. He only really wants the information from the center of the circle. Perfect. And the whip for me in this in particular is not a driving tool, right? So like if you were lunging, your lunge whip is out and you're sending him. That's not what I want. I want the whip in all of this groundwork is just descriptive. So the huge bonus of that is they become absolutely in love with the whip because it gives them all the information they need. It's never seen as the thing that is making them work. And you start to develop a horse that actually goes, oh, I can touch that horse anywhere with the whip. And they'll be like, oh, that's information. I'm not being told off. Good. So the whole thing is that this becomes like a fact-finding mission for him. So here, super unbalanced because he's not really concentrating on himself. So I say, hang on a minute, pause for a second. Right, he's got to let go of all of this. Now, straight into that lovely jazz movement, knees up round his nose, but doesn't necessarily know what to do with it, right? So, and what I really want to develop with this is that actually he starts to almost look at me and say, oh, when are you going to turn me? But if he feels here, this imbalance, I want the end result to be he turns himself. Because this is what we were talking about before. If he can feel that brewing up in his body, and he goes, oh my God, I don't like that feeling. It should feel really toxic when they get that kind of that anxiety. It's adrenaline building up in the body. Can he then go, I really don't like that feeling. I'd much prefer this. Yeah. So if he turns himself, this is already the first bit of you're on top, and he goes to spook and goes, actually, that's a really stupid thing to do. Oh, take a breath. That's what I really want. We're really giving him more time. Can he feel that there's more time available to make a much better informed decision? So what we want to feel is that, that's why I don't want him thinking I'm triggering it. I'm not saying, do this. I'm just saying, did you realize how tight you were when just trotting around? That's how tight you were in that moment. Oh, that's what I want that to become the natural feeling for him. That he goes, oh my God, I'm really tight. That was really stupid. And he starts to do it for himself. At the moment, he needs you or me to be like, hey, dude, do you realize how tight this is? It's the worst thing he can do. He has a good body, doesn't have the muscular system to support it yet, but he has a good body, but the body is controlling him at the moment because he's a bit like, I want him to realize, we'll see day on day, little improvements of him sort of investigating. I quite like you saw before when he was stopping, it's him kind of going, I quite like that feeling. I don't know why I did, but I quite liked it. Like now you see, okay, I'm prepared to give the walking out a try. You see, then he gets a bit quicker and a bit quicker, right? So he's making these decisions, but generally they'll still be quite sort of instinct-based. I want him to start experimenting a little bit. So there's like, did you see how I walked 4.5 circles? Oh my God. So he can pause, right? There, that lovely like, just what's that over there? Instead of this, he starts to look a little bit soft eye. I move towards it a little bit. You'll see it in a second with all these tools. How do I interact with things that might be a little bit confusing or a bit challenging? Rather than following what my instinct would say, I can start to choose. Already better choice, right? So he knew that he wanted to see whatever's going on the other side of the hedge, but rather than explode and go, oh my God, let me get away, he goes, actually, let me turn, I'll come and have a look. And then I can say to him, if I choose, because I can already see the heart is beating in the chest, right? If I say to him, well, hang on a minute, you can still look at it, but just do it with this. They think the only way to look is here. And so that like I said before, then the body follows that and then they're off. What I want to say is, I haven't once touched that rope and said, calm down, don't look, don't do this. I actually just go, you're quite right, there's something there, 100%. I want you to feel, if I come into this space, I'm not taking over and I'm not telling you what to do. But I can say to you, did you realize how tight you were? Good boy. Now almost he chooses a little bit independence over being near to me. So changes are already afoot. Two or three things really important to know, right? These are not intentionally here to scare him. That's not the point. They're here to challenge the brain and challenge the body. Of course, we might likely see some extravagant reactions. That's fine. But this is about teaching him how to interact with things that he won't necessarily be able to control. So this is the most simple. The bag on the stick it makes a noise. It has a certain feel to it. It moves in a way that he can't control. So can I start to say to him, look, when this happens in real life, this sort of posture, going to look at something, being interested in something, is so much more valuable than making a choice and running away before you know what it is. Good choice. So everything we've done up to this point obviously has built a little bit of trust, a little bit of understanding. Good. But I want him to start kind of going, well, I don't know what it could do. It could scare me in a minute. And I suspect with him, he's quite brave when it's right in front of him. I know. He's quite brave when it's right in front of him, but when it starts to move into areas that either he can't see or he can't control, that's where we'll start to see the bigger challenges. Good. And the important thing is that we're not teaching him to not react to a bag on a stick with white writing on and this, that. This is just symbolic of something that moves, something that has a noise, something that touches. You go to the showground and some numpties let their crisp packet blow underneath your horse, and how many horses have we seen run away from stuff blowing around? Good job. I know. So this is where we start to say, I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying to be too gentle. I'm saying to him, you see how distracted he is. So actually in the real world, he's probably not that aware of what I'm doing yet. And that's quite often, like I was saying to you before, that's where the explosions come in. Something's happening to him, but he's so distracted by everything else that all of a sudden his brain will come back to his body and go, oh my God, where did that come from? We see an explosion, right? So, like I was saying, when you were leading him and then you sort of, oh, I'll try and help you here. Hang on a minute, I'll touch you. And he goes, oh my God, where did you come from? I know. So you can see tension, lots of noise, lots of calling, right? So although in a perfect world, we've discussed 100 times already, stand still if you're comfortable, he's clearly not ready to stand still, right? So I suggest to him in that moment, come into a little bit of movement, but move in the way that we've already shown you. Slowly cross the hind leg, find the sequence in your body, feel better about how you're moving. If you can move well, then you can stand well, then we're good. So I'm starting to say to him, learn the step-by-step process. Don't leap to standing still if you're not ready. Because quite often, if you've got a horse that's really intelligent or really keen to please, they'll learn super quickly that you stop doing things when they stand still. But in reality, none of that tension has gone. So we have to be quite aware of what's going on. So here, tension, little twitchy in the body. He's looking very much in that moment for me to go, it's all right, and that's what I don't want to do. I want him to start to realize, here, good. So that's what we're saying earlier. It built up the noise outside, the bag at the same time. It built up to the point where he couldn't stand still for that period. So I stay with him and I say, hang on, look, come here. If you need to move, find a way to move that is calm and quiet. And I'm doing very little. I'm only shaping him a little bit. I'm not leading him or doing anything. And we get to there, that point. And this is what I want. Even if he'd been terrified of this, when he starts to understand it, he then almost goes, oh, well, why did it go away now? I'm not sure I was entirely finished with it. Perfect. Good job. So actually, pretty good with the touch. I expected, more sensitivity. And not to say, don't worry if you did this 10 times and on the 11th he was like, oh my oh, don't touch me. That's fine. It's about how you deal with it, not, oh God, I had 10 really good ones and then it was a problem. Not that at all. So we can then start to move here. See tension far quicker when there's bigger movement. So very logical. All he wanted to do was have it in front of him. But what I want him to realize is that can't happen in every single environment. So you see the build up, hopefully you'll see that on the camera, right? It builds up and then he has to move. And so what we say is, well, look, when you move like that and you're out of balance and you're moving too quickly, that's what makes you feel scared. And you see he tries to stop way too abruptly, like that. Oh my God, I don't know what to do with my legs. My legs suddenly feel so long, I don't know what to do with them. Well, hang on a minute. Find the pattern that we just talked about as steadily as you can. Try and place that item right here, and if you can finish with the posture we were talking about, a little bit down and forward and interested, good. We can start to undo that feeling of like toxic management, and we can start to say to him, you now have a choice, right? There's a choice to go through. Do you need to move? Great choice. Oh, I just want it in front of me. Super job. And really, you'll see more and more and more, the more he shows me he understands, the less I'm doing in this rope. There's every chance I get to leave that rope, what I would say is dead. He goes, oh crap, I'm on my own. I really need to sort myself out, because I'm not here trying to make him do things. I'm saying what's available to you out of the things that we've shown. So here he goes backwards. So all I'm going to do is go, well, hang on a minute. Don't use backwards. Backwards sort of reconfirms to him that he should get out of the area. What I want to say is, well, hang on, you can't run away. Super. Can you make a better choice? Oh, okay, yeah. So backwards doesn't help me. Forwards is okay. Then I've got some shape in my body. Oh, I can stand still. So we're changing the whole, I reared 10 times, got home, I'm alive, that must be the right thing to do, to, oh, I corrected myself 10 times, and I feel great when I come back to the stable. That must be the right thing to do. So there is no, it's not like a quick fix. But it's literally the same as we would do with our riding. It's training that muscle memory for him to start to realize as something gets bigger and bigger and bigger, speed hasn't helped because the item has stayed there. So I want him to start thinking, crap, I've tried faster, I've tried slower, I'll stand still. Okay, cool. And the big thing for me is I never want these to lose their value. This is not me doing this until he goes, oh my God, I'm so bored of that, I'm going to switch off. He's like, this is a little bit the child, like fingers in their ears, I'll pretend it's not there. So I give him the opportunity, he's got choices now. Does he choose to move when it becomes too much? Or is he going to choose to try and find that posture, that softer posture? Because he's now having that lovely internal battle of like, what do I do? I kind of know that you've shown me a few times standing still is pretty good. Yeah, I can't do it. Okay, that's cool. I'd much rather he does that than he stands still for the wrong reasons. And you saw he instantly went slower. Okay, just be calm here. That's what I want to see. Perfect. Good boy. So already you can see the relaxation is coming when the tool goes. What we want to see is that slowly but surely, that relaxation, he actually chooses that above the waste of energy of moving away or getting tight or getting tense. But you can see already, right, he's super intelligent.
Yeah.
And this is quite often what gets misunderstood, right? The really sensitive horses get a bad rap for being sensitive, when in actuality they're sensitive because they're like borderline hyper intelligent. All we've got to do is show them how does that intelligence work. So you can see it's an easy tool in the sense like it's just a piece of fabric. But the difference being I have very little control over this as much as he has no control over it at all. And when you start working with this, even if we get to the point where he's trotting around and it's over him and everything else, and he goes through that process of feeling confident, slowing down, stopping, when he stops, the wind changes, the flag moves another way. And so there's very, very little continuity to it. So they have to learn to look inside themselves and find that better understanding of how to move and how to feel comfortable. Quite often you'll see I end up wearing the flag more than anybody else because it's so windy. But you see that little stomp, like That's the flight or fright. What do? Can I stomp it first? Can I kill it so that it can't get to me? Well, hang on a minute. Why don't you actually, I mean, again, that's just putting some horrible toxic feeling in your body. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There you go. But again, I don't leap to that, oh, he could be really sensitive to this, and start being ready to manage that rope and, you know, and steer him somewhere and make sure something doesn't happen. I'm really starting to say to him, this is, as much as possible, this is your problem to resolve. If you need me, I can fill in the gaps. But if you can make really good choices, you don't need me in the slightest at this moment. Yeah, that's what I always want. Although I was terrified of it 35 seconds ago, I actually kind of want to know where it is and what it's doing. Then I can start to make some really informed choices about it. This is where it gets big. How many times does it go around? Okay, there we go. But already look at the way he moves. Right, oh, I want to place it in front of me. I don't necessarily need to run away anymore, but I'll move in a way where and I'm always down here, trying to find the balance. This is like the complete opposite of how he started. Can I feel better in my body? This is how you build muscle in his back, because all of a sudden the muscle's open. So when you work it, you're not fighting the tension that's there. And this is, you know, this is the reality, unfortunately, just for us. If we're building muscle, we're damaging it, it's repairing, that's why it gets bigger and healthier. And so, unfortunately, if he's rigid, he can't go through that process. So he will always sort of feel the same way. I'm giving him the freedom to work out what happens at the moment, right? If he feels like he needs to move or trot or go, that's absolutely fine. But I want him to realize that he has the power in this moment to make a choice. So in that fraction of a second, even though he didn't sort of go, you know, fully into the pattern and everything else, he went, oh, okay, right, it's still there, it hasn't gone. Maybe if I stand still, it's going to go away. Perfect. Good job, I know. But again, letting him know in this instant, it's absolutely fine that he moves. It's not a problem. If I start telling him not to, I'm forcing him to cope with something. So you'll see this will build and build, right? So this is what we're looking at is, and you see, you might not see it from that side because of the flag, but his back goes under so much tension that that's what shows him, oh my God, you need to run right now because otherwise you're going to die. And what we're saying is actually, if you stand still, all of that feeling disappears. And then we can get to the point where this moves around and does everything it needs to be. Again, this is you taking your coat off. This is you ride in an exercise sheet for the first time ever. All these little things that become very, very normal everyday things. See how he squats down into his bum like that's, I'm ready to run. Okay, well fine, if you need to run, you can run. What I want you to feel is, you make the choice. So I'm not doing this, he's guessing. So you can see from here, he's still giving me the information. He's not comfortable, right? The ears are back and he's still very unsure. But he's like, I'm going to give this standing still a go. I'd love to see him, in the first instance, go into a better movement pattern, which is what we're really looking for. Good here. So I will shape him just a hint. I have to be really clever. There, he stopped because he felt me touch the rope. That's how sensitive he is. Good. Oh. So I'm really looking at what's happening in the body, not just is he able to stand still, but did he get there softly? Did he go into it a little bit like this? Okay, fine. And you should see, I don't know whether it'll come across on the camera. Perfect. From beginning to now, all of a sudden you're not really seeing that rib line anymore, right? It's getting a little bit softer, everything's letting go just a hint. They will almost automatically look like they have more muscle when they stop carrying themselves poorly. So even if I ride one, you know, and it doesn't look great, once it's carrying itself really well, it'll look like it's put on 20, 30 kilos of muscle just because they've relaxed the things that were tight in the first place. And already you can see him coming to that conclusion, oh God, I really want to feel better about this. So once it disappears, I'm quite brave, I'll put my head down. I want him to start to get to the point where he can go straight to, oh, do you know what? I quite like that feeling of me with my head down. I can probably choose to do that almost straight away. So here again, now I'm going to shape him a little bit. because he went slightly wooden, like here. This is where his intelligence works a little bit against him. So he thinks coming close to me is going to save him. So I go a bit bigger, until he says, oh, actually, you're really not helping me. I'll help myself. Good choice. And again, super, like, I want to see what it was, what happened, where did it go? Good job. In that moment, I can also, same as we did before, I can come in and go, hey, you could choose to reward yourself hugely. You could really let go of all that toxic tension that's been in your body for such a long time and just trust yourself a little bit. If you've got this far, why don't you reward yourself completely? Ooh, sorry, darling. Again, it doesn't matter. Even if I'd not been able to get close to him with these today, it's only about, he would have moved in this pattern. He'd have found the way to find, better balance, better comfort levels. Here, distracted outside, so I ask again for him to move. So I'm being quite picky about when he stands, like how did he get there? Why did he offer it? Did I feel that actually he sort of almost nudged himself into the rope at some point and went, oh, you told me to stand. I've got to be a bit clever about that. I don't want him standing there going, oh yeah, you told me to do it. That's the last thing in the world I want. Already you can see it there. That's what I want to see. That's a choice, right? He's literally worked the program. I've gone through the steps. I've said the old prayer here and there. And now, oh my God, did you see that? But even then you can see how intimidated he is. Oh my God, did you see me? I want him to know that letting go of some of the tension, right? I want him to know that that's a choice. That's an amazing choice. Well done. You could choose to go there anytime you want to. See, now it doesn't matter that it doesn't happen straight away the next time. It's very much him kind of really being able to trust himself. So here I said, oh, look, you tried to stop and it didn't go away. Well done. There you go. So it's really putting the ball in his court and not being the one that's going to stand there and go, you're all right, you're all right, you're all right. So we've done touch, movement, little bit of sound. This is the real sound. These are brilliant because they will tailor to how fast I move them, how hard I move them. So if he starts slowing down, but he hasn't stopped yet, I can move it slower and the sound gets a little bit less. So this is the closest you can feel to like a dimmer switch. So it allows me to be super precise with marking how successful he's being. Already testing the theory. I'll just drop my neck a little bit. So already, right, you can tell, right? Typically sound sensitive, that's fine. That's what these are for. So already he wants to target it a little bit. So I'm going to just say, well, hang on, that's not an option because that means you're going backwards. Good. So he thought about being super fast and I was like, just go into the pattern, find your feet. Very good. And again, I'm doing as little as I can. I don't want him to feel like I'm holding his hand too much. Good. Oh, dear. And each time, he just gets a little bit of processing time. It's just like, have a think about it. Was that a good choice? Yeah, pretty much. I'm still alive. D. Very good. These are also really good. We all inherently think noise they'll be sensitive near their ears. That's actually not always true. You'll find lots and lots of horses that are either sensitive underneath, sensitive near the girth, sensitive at the back of the saddle. So you get a lot of information about them that you wouldn't necessarily pick up just by riding or just by going to a show or whatever it is. So you see, for him it was the height. So I'm going to go bigger. Because I want him to start saying, oh, moving away didn't work. If he goes away and I make it bigger, it's still there. He's, oh, I need to try something else. But can you see he's already getting a little bit like, I'm a bit zoned out and a bit tired. That's all. It's a really good tired because it's the brain not the body, right? So we're tiring the most difficult muscle to tire, especially if you've got one that lives on adrenaline, because they won't feel like they've ever got tired until they go back to their stable and they just crash. I want to know that I can get even the most sensitive horse to be challenged in their brain a little bit within 5 or 10 minutes, not living on that intense drug feeling of the adrenaline. Good. So I just lead him through all of those experiences he's had. He only wanted to move slowly. Then he only wanted to stand still. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's still here. What are you going to do? That's what I want to see. He's lovely.
That's brilliant.
He's everything you expect. As we said, as much as I don't like to say that there is a story with breeding, he's everything you expect in the sense of big movement. That's it, well done. Doesn't necessarily know what to do with the big movement.
Yeah.
And quite often, that will set the spiral of, I'm out of control, oh crap, mum tries to help, quite rightly so, tries to help, no, still feel bad, and we just get this escalation, constant escalation. And what we really want is what we've seen today, that he can choose to bring that down. And it becomes completely transferable to your riding. So, you know, he gets tight, you show him the rein, your leg comes on, your leg is the most comforting thing in the world. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, today I don't touch him.
Yeah.
Because that only perpetuates what he feels.
Yeah.
Oh my God! We want you to be super confident. Good boy.
That's brilliant.